Cowboys, Packers, Sunday, pregame, play-by-play, postgame, all on this radio station. We are your home of the NFC East champs, the home of Mike McCarthy, Fridays at 6:30. And we have to preview the Packers with a guy that we had on last time. He was fantastic, so we tracked him down. Rob Demovsky, Packers beat reporter for ESPN, joining us on the D&M Leasing Hotline. Good morning, Rob. Welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, guys.
How worried should we be? How uneasy should we be? Because we're basically stamping the ticket to the NFC Championship game. We're certainly just getting through the Green Bay Packers. How uneasy do you think that feeling should be?
Well, it depends on who you are, I guess. I think you guys should be okay. I think Mike McCarthy's probably pretty nervous because, Mike, obviously, I heard him talk the other day about facing the Packers last time and how he wishes he didn't, bring up his time here and all that. Look, this is the Packers are playing with house money, and I guess that could be a dangerous thing for, another team. But I think the Packers are, probably a year away from being in a position where they can win this game in advance. I think it was, for them, it's great they made the playoffs. It's a huge starting point for Jordan Love and this young offense. But, defensively, they've struggled so much this year that I don't see how Dallas doesn't put up 30 on these guys. And I would think that would be enough.
Is their defense good up front, bad on the back? Is that kind of how this is?
Not necessarily. It's been the problem with this defense is that it's been good in spots and then bad in those same spots in other games. It's not just one thing. They allowed four games. They allowed 200 yards rushing to four different teams. Nobody's done that in the NFL. That's bad. And then they've had games where they can stop the run, and a guy like Baker Mayfield throws for 381 yards against them. So it's not that they've been bad in one area. They've just been bad at different times. And they played some good defense at times too. They went up to Detroit on Thanksgiving, played really well there. They held up fine against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and they won that game. But it's just been one of these defenses where you just never know when it's going to go bad and in what way it's going to go bad.
Fill in the blank, Rob. Jerrel Alexander is
all about Jerrel Alexander.
Is he a great cornerback on the field?
I think when he wants to be and when he's fully engaged, and I'm just not sure that's where he is right now. It's been a weird run for him, and I could say a weird dude too to finish that sentence. He's a different guy, I still think he's a good player. I just don't know that he's ever going to be the player he was in 2020, 2021 when he was an all-pro guy.
Rob, you mentioned Mike McCarthy there a little bit in the reunion. Now that the dust has settled a little bit, it seemed like there were a lot of people ready to get Mike McCarthy out the door in 2018. What is his reputation there in Green Bay now that things have kind of settled down? Is he thought of pretty favorably in that city?
Yeah, I do think so. And even in 2018, when he got let go, I think there were people who not necessarily thought he should have stayed, but thought he deserved a better ending, if that makes sense. Not let go with 4 games left in a season after all he accomplished here in 13 years. I honestly, from the Packers fans that I know, I think Packers fans are really rooting for Mike, not just against the only just not when they play the Packers. I do think that, I think that if the Packers end up losing Sunday, I think there'll be a lot of people here that after that and after the disappointment of that goes away, that they'll probably want to see Mike take this thing as far as he can go. He still, he still has a home here. He still spends time here in the off season. He still led this team to their last Super Bowl win, to 4 or 5 NFC Championship games. I do think Mike is very, very much revered here.
Are you surprised, or I guess not surprised? What is your impression of the work from the outside that he's done with Dak Prescott? Or do you think that coupling, does it surprise you that we've seen so much success from Dak, or is this what you would have expected with him taking things over from Kellen Moore?
This is what I would have expected when he got the job in 2020. I mean, I was as surprised as anybody that Mike didn't didn't call the plays right away, and because I mean that's what his specialty is. That's why you hire Mike McCarthy. You hire Mike McCarthy for two reasons: one, to work closely with a quarterback, and two, to be the offensive play caller. And now, obviously, Jerry wanted Kellen to be in that role for the time, and I was just a little surprised that that Mike. I guess not that I don't want to say I'm surprised he agreed to that, but that's not Mike's. It's not Mike's way. And so when he took over this offseason, I thought, boy, this could be really good for Dak. And it looks like it has turned out that way. And Mike's really good at those things. So, I guess I'm not really surprised.
ESPN's Rob Demovsky joining us here at 105 through the Fan. We're going behind enemy lines. Jordan Love, do they let him try to take over the game? Is he managing the game? What kind of player has he become in the second half of the year?
Yeah, different one the second half of the year than the first half for sure. I mean, this is a guy who, quite frankly, you go turn on any game from the month of October and he just looked uncomfortable, looked unsure of himself, just did not look like he had command of the offense. And as we got into mid to late November, he just started to get more and more comfortable in the offense, more and more comfortable with the guys around him. And this is the youngest team, in the league, and one of the youngest ever to make the playoffs. And it's especially young at the skill positions. They don't have a catch by a player that has, by a receiver that has more than 2 years of experience, because they don't have a receiver that has more than 2 years experience. So he's been really, really good the second, probably the last, since the Chargers game, which I think was week 11, he's been really good. I think it's 18 touchdowns, 1 interception. And he's just, they've given him more freedom, more responsibility. And he's earned it, and he's done really well with it. He is still at the, probably the 200 level, of course, in the quarterback learning scale. And, Aaron Rodgers was graduate school level when he left here. So there's still much more for Jordan Love to do. The one thing that he's done really well is take care of the ball. He's got the 1 interception in the last 8 weeks. Now, he did fumble against the Bears when it was still a one-score game, and but I don't think, the one thing with young quarterbacks that you always worry about is turnovers, and he really hasn't had that problem here the second half of the season.
What do you think the Matt LaFleur approach is in this game? Is it going to be, hey, let's stay out of track meet, let's not play that style of ball with Dallas, let's try and lean on Aaron Jones, who's played really well lately? What do you think the approach is for them?
Yeah, I think the approach is a little bit of that, but it's also, you can't stop doing what you've been doing well, and that's been mixing play action and taking some shots down the field. And I don't mean just they're not just, throwing bombs all the time, but they are throwing a lot of, 15, 20-yard crossing routes and things like that. And they got Jaden Reed on a catch and run. That probably, if he was tackled, probably would have been a 15-yard gain, but it turns into a 50-some-yard play. Now, the dynamic also could change if they have Christian Watson back. He has not played in 6 weeks with a hamstring injury, and I thought he was going to play last week, and they held him out. So he either A, had a setback, or B, they were saving him for this game, and I find it hard to believe they were saving him because they needed to win that game to get in. So they may not have their deep threat, their best deep threat guy again, but they've managed just fine without him. But you're right about Aaron Jones. 3 straight 100-yard games. 2 of them were 120-plus yard games. And had he gotten the third, I think he was just under 120, but had he gotten a 120 against the Bears, it would have been the first time in Packers history that any running back had ever run for 120 in 3 straight games. And this team's been around for a little while.
Rob, I was going to take it to the Cowboys' run defense because teams have shown they can push them around. Is that, you think, the biggest Achilles heel for Dallas in matching up? What is the status of the Packers offensive line to go along with Aaron Jones?
Yeah, this isn't really – it's not a power running game per se. So if Dallas struggles with, teams that kind of, run it down their throat, then, this is not that offense. It's a little bit more of a get out to the edge and let Aaron Jones turn a corner. When Aaron Jones was out with the injury, A.J. Dillon, who was much more of a bruising back, I would say had, moderate success at best and wasn't able to overpower people per se. This is an offensive line that has a lot of names that people probably never heard of. David Bakhtiari, their star left tackle, has been out since the first game. He played one game this year and then was done. They've rotated guys at left tackle and right guard throughout the season, and throughout the games. They'll play their starting left tackle will play like 2 series, and they'll bring in somebody to play a series, and then they'll go back to the guy. It's strange. It's really strange. They're doing the same thing at right guard. John Runyon Jr. is their starter, but they'll throw this kid Sean Ryan, a draft pick last year, in there for 15, 20 plays a game. I've never really seen that done before in my 20-some years covering this team. You don't usually rotate offensive linemen during the game, but they're doing it, and they seem to be doing it with some degree of success.
Packers reporter Rob Demovsky joining us here, 105 through the Fan. Is this easily the worst matchup for Green Bay? Were they clearly rooting for San Fran to beat the Rams last week?
Yeah, there's no question. And I mean, the only worst matchup would be San Fran, probably, right?
Yeah.
I mean, San Francisco's ended just like the Cowboys. I mean, San Francisco has beaten Matt LaFleur's teams in the playoffs twice in his 5 years as the coach here. They've gone to Detroit and won. They went there on Thanksgiving, and to be honest with you, they really dominated the game at Detroit. I don't think Detroit's playing anywhere near as well as they were playing, early in the year. And then, everybody watched Sam Laporta, their rookie tight end, go down, in the early window games right before the Packers played. So, yeah, there's no question they would have rather gone to Detroit than Dallas. Everyone here knows, just how explosive the Dallas offense is. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure. You mentioned Jerrel Alexander. I don't know how they cover CeeDee Lamb, and he's obviously not the only guy that gives teams problems. They've had trouble covering tight ends, and certainly you got one down there that's capable, and people in Wisconsin certainly very familiar with him from his time playing up here. So, I don't think Dallas was quite the matchup that they wanted. However, this is such a young team, and you always hear they're so young they don't know what they don't know. I do believe that this team, is that way. They don't know that they're not supposed to go down to Dallas and win. And while I don't think they will, I don't think they'll be. I don't think the moment will be too big for them. I think they'll handle that part of it fine. I just don't think they have enough to stop the Cowboys' offense.
Speaking of covering, we have to get your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers as a New York Jet and on the Pat McAfee show this year. Your thoughts after covering Aaron for so long on him and all the headlines.
I always enjoyed covering Aaron during the season and during his interactions with us. I didn't so much enjoy covering him in the off season and on Tuesday afternoons. So I will say, from a standpoint of a guy of the group of people who covers him on a daily basis, he was always great to deal with us. He always gave really good answers. If you were working on a story and you asked a question about something specific, he would give a long, thoughtful answer, not just play it off. And look, the games were really pretty exciting when he was involved in them for the most part. But the off-season stuff just sort of morphed into a different thing. He tried, for most of his career, he tried so hard to be the anti-Brett Favre. Like Brett Favre was the wild, gunslinging quarterback who, might throw 5 interceptions or 5 touchdowns, but he might also throw 5 interceptions in a game. And Aaron tried to be so different. But I'd say in the end, from the off the field stuff, he ended up a lot like Brett in terms of the, high maintenance type of stuff that has followed him through the end of his career. So I don't listen to I occasionally listen to the McAfee show on Tuesdays. but I don't listen to it with my notebook and my computer in hand, having to write something. I listen to it when I'm, running my errands on the off day on Tuesday when I'm at the grocery store or wherever.
Who would win the race for mayor in Green Bay between Favre and Rodgers today?
Well, I would have said Favre, no question. But obviously the whole welfare money issue down in Mississippi might have might have hurt his chances at the ballot. I will say this: during their careers and after their careers, we'll say during their careers because we don't know exactly what the post-Rodgers career reaction will look like. But Brett was a beloved figure here. Even after he went and played for the Vikings, I think people got over that pretty quickly. Brett was always more of a man of the people when he was here. I mean, you would see it. Times were different. I get it. There was no social media and all that, but Brett would be a man about town, and it wasn't unusual to see Brett in a bar or restaurant, hanging out with his buddies. And Aaron was much more of the, California cool type of guy that fans loved because he was a great player. I don't know that they ever loved him because of the type of person that he was.
Rob, this was fantastic yet again. Thank you so much. Have a good trip to DFW, and we'll catch up with you.
Well, thanks, guys. I'm looking forward to getting out of the snow that we just got here, so hopefully it's nice and warm down there.
Oh, yeah. Well, as our cold front's coming in this week. Safe travels, Rob. Thank you.
All right, guys.